The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light where 12 alien species gathered to discuss matters that affected the entire galaxy. Today, the room buzzed with confused whispers as the representatives waited for the human delegation to speak. Commander Park Ji-woo stood at the center platform, her dark eyes scanning the assembled aliens. Behind her, holographic displays showed images of stars and cosmic data that most species in the room had never seen before. She took a deep breath and began. Honored members of the Galactic Council, we come with urgent news. A catastrophic event is approaching your worlds. We call it the Ember Wave. The Cathari ambassador, a towering creature covered in metallic scales, let out a barking laugh. Humans and their fear stories. Your species has been in space for barely 2 centuries. What could you possibly know that we do not? Ji-woo remained calm. She had expected this reaction. We know because we look at the stars differently than you do. While your civilizations study the present, humans study the past. We are archaeologists of the cosmos. She gestured to the displays behind her. Ancient star charts appeared, showing patterns that repeated across millennia. Every 47,000 years, a massive wave of cosmic radiation sweeps through this sector of space. It ignites the atmospheres of oxygen-rich planets. Your worlds will burn. The Vex Collective, represented by a cluster of linked machines, spoke in perfect unison. Our sensors detect no such phenomenon. Our computational models show no threat. This information appears fabricated. Lee Seo-yeon, Ji-woo's second-in-command, stepped forward. She was younger than the commander, with quick movements and sharp intelligence in her expression. Your sensors look for current threats. We found this by studying dead civilizations. 12 species lived in this region before you. All of them died at the same time, 47,000 years ago. Their worlds show the same pattern of atmospheric ignition. The hologram changed, showing archaeological evidence from dead planets. Cities frozen in time, populations that died in moments, chemical signatures of oxygen fires that consumed entire atmospheres. We examined stellar records from long-dead stars, Seo-yeon continued. We studied geological layers on barren worlds. We pieced together what happened from evidence your species never thought to examine. The Ember Wave is real, and it will arrive in 6 months. The Ilnar representative, a gentle creature with soft, luminescent skin, spoke quietly. How many worlds are in danger? 12 inhabited systems, Ji-woo answered, including your homeworld, honored Ilnar, including the Cathari Empire, including the Vex Collective's central processing planet. Silence fell across the chamber. The weight of the statement pressed down on everyone present. The Draxus Consortium ambassador, a being made of flowing crystal, spoke carefully. We have dealt with humans before. They do not exaggerate threats. What evidence can you provide? Ji-woo nodded to her team. Kim Tae-hyun, the expedition's chief engineer, brought up detailed scans. We have been monitoring deep space for 3 years. The wave's leading edge is already visible in our instruments. It is a wall of energized particles traveling at 0.7 light speed. When it reaches oxygen-nitrogen atmospheres, it triggers a chain reaction. Impossible, the Cathari ambassador growled. Our military sensors would have detected such a thing. Your military sensors look for ships and weapons, Tae-hyun replied respectfully. This is a natural phenomenon. You would need to look at specific stellar background radiation patterns to see it coming. Humans develop these sensors because we study old things, ancient patterns. We look backwards to see forwards. The Vex Collective processed this information. What is the human recommendation? Evacuation, Ji-woo said firmly. All 12 species must evacuate their homeworlds and any colonies in the affected zone. You have 6 months to move billions of citizens to safety. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. The Cathari called it cowardice. The Vex Collective demanded more data. Smaller species panicked, while others denied the threat entirely. Silence! The Council Arbiter, an ancient being whose species had managed the chamber for generations, brought order. The humans have presented their evidence. We will study it and reconvene in 1 week. As the session ended, Choi Min-ji, the human expedition's xenopsychologist, approached the Ilnar representative privately. "Will your people listen?" she asked gently. The Ilnar's skin pulsed with worried colors. "We have learned to trust humans. Your species sees the universe with different eyes. But the others, especially the Cathari, they view evacuation as surrender. Their warrior culture cannot accept fleeing from danger." Minji nodded sadly. She had studied this. Most space-faring races had conquered their way to the stars. They fought, they dominated, they took what they wanted. The concept of running from an unstoppable natural force felt like defeat to them. Back on the human ship, the delegation gathered in the conference room. They were exhausted, and they knew the real battle had just begun. "They won't listen," Seo-Yan said, slumping in her chair. "Did you see their faces? The Cathari think we're manipulating them? The Vex think their computers are smarter than our research?" "Some will listen," Jiwoo replied. "The Ilnar trust us. The Draxes have worked with us before. That's a start." Taehyun pulled up projections on the screen. "Even if everyone agreed today, evacuating billions of beings in 6 months is nearly impossible. We don't have enough ships. They don't have enough ships. No one has the infrastructure for this." "Then we build it," Jiwoo said quietly. "We prepare for the worst. If they won't save themselves, we need to be ready to help them anyway." Minji looked at her commander with concern. "Jiwoo, we barely have resources to protect our own colonies. If we commit to saving 12 alien species who don't even believe us, we could bankrupt Earth." "I know," Jiwoo answered. She stared out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, invisible to the naked eye, a wave of destruction was approaching. It would not care about politics or pride. It would not negotiate or slow down. It would simply arrive and burn everything in its path. "We gave them the warning," she said softly. "Now we prepare. Because when their worlds start to ignite, they will remember that humans tried to save them. And maybe, just maybe, they will finally listen." The delegation sat in heavy silence, knowing that the hardest days were still ahead. They had delivered the warning. Now came the impossible task of making the galaxy believe before it was too late. 3 months had passed since the warning, and the galaxy had chosen to ignore it. Park Ji-woo watched the news feeds from her office aboard the human diplomatic station, her face growing more tired with each passing day. The Cathari Empire had made their position official. Their High Council declared that evacuation was an act of cowardice that went against everything their warrior culture stood for. They would remain on their homeworld and face whatever came with honor. Any Cathari who chose to flee would be considered traitors. The Vex Collective had responded differently, but not better. Their vast computer networks had analyzed the human data and assigned it a 3% probability of accuracy. They devoted exactly 3% of their resources to preparation, which meant almost nothing for a civilization that prioritized efficiency above all else. Only the Ilnar had listened completely. Their gentle civilization trusted the humans, and they had begun immediate evacuation procedures. But they were also the smallest population, with just 800 million citizens spread across 2 worlds. Lee Seo-Yan entered the office carrying another stack of reports. "More rejections," she said, dropping the files on the desk. "The Carthox Union says we're trying to destabilize their government. The Mindari Collective claims we fabricated the evidence to make Earth seem important." What about the smaller species? Jiwoo asked. The ones without the pride and politics. Some are preparing quietly, Seo-yeon replied. But they don't have the ships or infrastructure. They're hoping the bigger civilizations will help them if things get bad. If things get bad, Jiwoo repeated bitterly. Not when. If. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbital shipyards, Kim Tae-hyun was working 20-hour days trying to develop atmospheric shields. The theory was sound, but the execution was incredibly difficult. They needed to create a barrier that could protect an entire planet's atmosphere from cosmic radiation while still allowing sunlight through. "It's not working," his assistant told him after another failed simulation. "The energy requirements are too high. We would need to build reactors the size of cities, and we only have 3 months left." Tae-hyun rubbed his eyes. He had not slept properly in weeks. "Then we focus on evacuation. If we can't save the worlds, we save the people." But the numbers were terrifying. 12 species, billions of individuals, and only 6 months total time. Even if every ship in human space worked non-stop, they could not move that many beings. Choi Min-ji had spent the 3 months trying to understand the alien psychology better. She traveled to different worlds, speaking with citizens, studying their cultures, trying to find the key to making them understand the danger. She found a pattern. Every spacefaring civilization in the Council had reached the stars through conflict. They built weapons, conquered neighbors, took resources by force. The concept of fleeing from danger, of accepting that some things could not be fought, went against their fundamental nature. "They see it as surrender," she explained to Jiwoo during a video call. "For species like the Cathari, dying in battle is honorable. Running away is shameful. They literally cannot process the idea of evacuation as the smart choice." "Even when it means their children will die?" Jiwoo asked. Minji's expression was sad. "They believe their children should die with honor, too. It's incomprehensible to us, but it's deeply rooted in their culture." Then the first confirmation came. Long-range sensors, both human and the few alien stations that had been watching, detected the Ember Wave's leading edge, reaching uninhabited systems at the edge of the affected zone. The footage was horrifying. Planetary atmospheres ignited in cascading chemical reactions. Oxygen and nitrogen, the building blocks of breathable air, became fuel for fires that consumed entire worlds in hours. The recordings showed planets transforming into burning spheres, glowing red and gold as their atmospheres became firestorms. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Jiwoo presented the evidence, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "This is what is coming to your homeworlds. This is not a theory anymore. This is not human manipulation. This is reality, and it will arrive in 90 days. The chamber was quieter this time, but still filled with denial. The Cathari ambassador watched the footage without expression. "We have faced death before. We will face it again with honor." "This is not an enemy you can fight," Jiwoo said, her patience finally cracking. "This is not about honor or courage. This is about survival. Your people will die screaming as the air itself burns them alive." "Then we will die as Cathari," the ambassador replied coldly. The Vex Collective increased their preparation probability to 15%. It was better than before, but still criminally inadequate. That night, the human delegation held a meeting that would change everything. They gathered in the conference room, all of them exhausted, all of them frustrated. "They're going to die," Seo-yeon said flatly. "Billions of them, and there's nothing we can do about it." "No," Jiwoo said quietly. "There is something we can do. We just won't like it." Everyone looked at her. Tae-hyun leaned forward. "What are you thinking?" "We saved them anyway," Jiwoo said, "whether they want it or not. We go to their worlds, we load their people onto our ships, and we evacuate them by force if necessary." The room erupted in argument. It was a violation of sovereignty. It was impossible with their limited resources. It was political suicide. They would be accused of imperialism, of trying to control other species. Jiwoo let them argue, then held up her hand for silence. I know all of that. I know we will be hated for it. I know we don't have enough ships or resources. I know Earth's economy will suffer. I know some of us will probably die trying to save people who are shooting at us. She looked around the room at her team. But I also know that we are human. We warned them. We tried to convince them. And now that they won't save themselves, we have a choice. We can let billions die to protect our diplomatic relationships, or we can do what humans do best. What's that? Minji asked quietly. We sacrifice for people who don't deserve it, Jiwoo answered. We save the ungrateful. We protect the ones who hate us, because that is what makes us human. Taehyun was the first to nod, then Seoyeon. Then one by one the entire team agreed. They sent a message to Earth requesting immediate mobilization. Every ship that could carry passengers, every transport that could make the journey, every vessel that could be spared. They asked for volunteers, knowing they were essentially asking people to risk their lives for aliens who despised them. The response from Earth was overwhelming. Ships began arriving within days. Commercial vessels, military transports, private yachts, cargo haulers retrofitted with passenger space. Humans from across known space volunteered. They donated credits, fuel, supplies, time. When asked why, one volunteer said simply, because someone's children need saving, and we're the only ones willing to do it. The Galactic Council received Earth's declaration with outrage. Humans were planning to forcibly evacuate populations without government permission. It was called invasion, imperialism, and worse. Jiwoo's response was broadcast across the galaxy. We gave you one warning. You ignored it. Now your worlds will ignite, but we will make sure your people survive to see new ones. Hate us if you must. We would rather have you alive to hate us than dead, with your honor intact. The clock was ticking. 90 days until the Ember Wave arrived, and humanity was about to attempt the impossible. The first human ships entered Cathari space without permission, and the Cathari military responded exactly as expected. They opened fire. Pilot Shinda-yoon dodged the incoming weapons fire, while her transport ship, loaded with 6,000 Cathari children, struggled to reach escape velocity. The children had been taken from schools while their parents worked, rounded up by human ground teams who knew the adults would never allow evacuation. This is Transport Vessel Mercy, Da-yoon spoke calmly into the comm despite the explosions around her ship. We have children aboard. Please stop firing. The Cathari warship did not stop. To them, this was an invasion, and honor demanded resistance. Da-eun's shields failed. She redirected all power to engines and life support for the cargo bay, where the children huddled in fear. Her cockpit had no protection now. When the next shot hit, it tore through the front of her ship. Her last words were recorded by the ship's computer. They'll understand when they're older. The transport, badly damaged but still functional, limped away from the planet with its precious cargo. Da-yoon's body remained strapped in the pilot's seat, frozen by the vacuum of space, her hands still on the controls. She was the first human to die in the evacuation. She would not be the last. Across 12 systems, the same scene repeated with variations. Human ships descended on alien worlds, trying to save populations that did not want saving. Some aliens resisted peacefully, others fought back violently. The humans kept coming anyway. Captain Yoon Jae-sung commanded a massive colony transport ship that normally carried supplies between Earth's distant settlements. Now it was crammed with 40,000 Vex units, the individual machines that made up their collective intelligence. The Vex had finally agreed to partial evacuation, but only after human teams physically demonstrated the approaching wave's power. Jae-sung's ship made it out of Vex space successfully, but the strain of carrying so many passengers had pushed the vessel beyond its limits. Life support began failing 3 days into the journey. "We can make it to the nearest human station if we put all non-essential personnel into cryo-sleep," his engineer reported. Jae-sung made the calculation quickly. All non-essential personnel meant the human crew. The Vex could survive without life support, but humans could not. There was not enough cryo capacity for everyone. "Prepare the Vex for safe landing," he ordered. "Human crew enters cryo-sleep. I'll maintain minimal helm control and put myself under last." His second officer protested. "Captain, if anything goes wrong, no one will be awake to fix it." "Then nothing can go wrong," Jae-sung replied with a tired smile. Everything went wrong. A power fluctuation caused the cryo system to malfunction. The human crew, including Jae-sung, died in their sleep, frozen but never properly preserved. The ship's automated systems delivered the 40,000 Vex units safely to human space. The Vex Collective processed this information with growing confusion. Humans had died to save them, machines, beings without biological life. The logic made no sense, yet the action was undeniable. Only with the Ilnar did the evacuation proceed smoothly. The gentle species worked alongside humans in complete cooperation, organizing their people efficiently, helping load ships, coordinating schedules. Together, humans and Ilnar evacuated the entire Ilnar civilization in just 3 weeks. But the other species continued to resist, and humans continued to die, saving them. The Ember Wave was now visible from the threatened worlds, a golden-red aurora growing larger in the night sky. Fear finally overcame pride. The Cathari government, watching their sky turn colors that ancient instinct recognized as danger, sent a desperate plea for help. The Vex Collective, their probability calculations now showing 98% certainty of catastrophe, requested immediate full evacuation. But there was not enough time. The wave would arrive in 2 weeks, and billions remained on the surface of doomed worlds. Park Ji-woo, coordinating the massive operation from her ship, made the hardest decision of her life. She sent out new orders to all human vessels. Priority 1, children. Priority 2, elderly. Priority 3, specialists needed to rebuild their civilizations. Everyone else gets saved only if time permits. The message caused anguish among human crews, but they understood. They could not save everyone. They could only save as many as possible, and the young had to come first. On the Cathari homeworld, medical officer Young Hai-won worked at a crowded evacuation center. She had been organizing the loading of ships for 72 hours without sleep. Around her, Cathari families screamed and fought to get their loved ones onto the transports. The last ship was boarding. Haiwan helped a Cathari child up the ramp, then looked at the crowd still waiting. Thousands of them, too many for the ship, too many for the time remaining. "Go," she shouted to the pilot. "Take off now." "But you're not on board," the pilot responded. "There's no room for me," Haiwan said calmly. "Get those children to safety. That's an order." The ship lifted off. Haiwan turned to face the remaining Cathari, many of them elderly, all of them knowing they had been left behind. An old Cathari warrior, too injured to travel, sat against a wall watching the sky. Haiwan sat down beside him. "I'm sorry we couldn't save everyone." The warrior looked at her with ancient eyes. "You are staying?" "Someone should be here with you at the end," she replied. "No one should die alone." They sat together in silence, watching the ember wave grow brighter in the sky. When the end came hours later, they were still holding hands, human and Cathari, facing death together. The evacuation succeeded in saving 9 billion lives across the 12 species. But it cost humanity dearly. 127,000 humans died in the operation. Ships were destroyed. Crews sacrificed themselves. Ground teams stayed behind to maintain order until the final moments. Earth's economy staggered under the cost. 340 years' worth of gross domestic product spent in 6 months. Resources meant for human colonies went to alien refugees. Ships that should have been building humanity's future instead burned trying to save others present. And when it was done, when the Ember Wave finally arrived and 6 worlds ignited into balls of fire, the survivors watched from human ships and human stations. They watched their homeworlds burn while living in shelters built by the species they had mocked just months before. The galaxy had ignored humanity's warning, but humanity had saved them anyway. And now, in refugee camps across human space, 9 billion aliens had to process a simple, terrifying truth. Humans had given everything to save people who hated them. They had died for strangers. They had bankrupted their civilization for children who were not their own. The question that haunted every alien mind was simple. Why? Why would any species do this? What kind of beings chose sacrifice over survival? What drove humans to burn themselves so others could live? The answer would reshape the galaxy. But first, the refugees had to survive their grief and learn to live in a universe where everything they knew was ash. The Ember Wave arrived exactly when the humans had predicted, and it was more terrible than anyone had imagined. From the safety of human space stations, billions of refugees watched their homeworlds die. The wave hit 6 planets simultaneously, worlds where populations had refused evacuation until it was too late or simply could not be reached in time. The Cathari homeworld went first. The golden-red radiation struck the upper atmosphere and began the cascade. Oxygen ignited. The reaction spread like a wave across the sky, turning day into an inferno. Within 3 hours, the entire atmosphere was burning, cities melted, oceans boiled. 4 billion Cathari died, along with every other living thing on the planet. The broadcasts showed everything. Alien news networks, still functioning until the end, recorded the catastrophe. Refugees watched their families die in real time, saw their cities transform into hellscapes, witnessed the annihilation of everything they had known. In the refugee centers aboard human stations, the grief was overwhelming. Entire species mourned together, crying in languages humans could not speak, expressing loss in ways that transcended words. Park Ji-woo walked through one of the largest refugee centers, a converted cargo bay on Earth's primary orbital station. Tens of thousands of aliens filled the space, sitting in family groups, staring at screens showing the destruction, or simply staring at nothing. She found Lee Seo-yeon organizing food distribution. The younger woman looked exhausted but determined. "How are supplies holding up?" Ji-woo asked. "We're managing," Seo-yeon replied. "Earth is sending everything it can. The Ilnar are helping coordinate distribution, but Ji-woo, the grief counseling teams are overwhelmed. We don't have enough therapists who understand alien psychology." "Do what you can," Ji-woo said. "That's all any of us can do." A massive Cathari warrior approached them. His name was Takarn, a former military commander who had fought against human evacuation ships. He had watched his mate and 2 of his 3 children die on the homeworld because he had delayed too long in accepting human help. "Commander Park," Takarn said, his voice rough with emotion, "I need to speak with you." Ji-woo nodded, and they walked to a quieter corner of the massive bay. "My government killed billions of my people," Takarn said bluntly. "Our pride, our honor, our refusal to listen. We shot at your ships. We called you invaders. And still you saved my daughter. You saved 3 billion Cathari who did not deserve your help." He paused, struggling with words. "I killed one of your pilots. Her ship was evacuating children and I fired on it. I did not know, but that does not matter. I killed her, and she was trying to save our young." "Shin Da-un," Ji-woo said quietly. "Yes, I know." Why? Takarn's voice cracked. Why did you keep coming? Why did humans die for us when we were killing you? Jiwoo looked at the Cathari warrior, seeing his genuine anguish. Because your children deserved a future, even if your leaders didn't deserve our help. Da-un knew she might die. She chose to fly anyway, because those children did nothing wrong. They were just born into a culture that valued honor over life. Takarn made a sound that was half sob, half growl. In Cathari culture, showing such emotion was deeply shameful. He no longer cared about shame. Across the refugee centers, similar conversations were happening. The Vex Collective had linked their distributed intelligence across all their saved units and spent days processing the human actions. For beings that existed as pure logic, the calculations made no sense. A Vex delegation approached Kim Tae-hyun in one of the engineering bays. "We must understand," the collective voice said. "Our analysis shows humanity spent 340 years of economic value saving us. You lost 127,000 human lives. The logical benefit to humanity is negative in every calculation. Why?" Tae-hyun put down the tool he was holding and looked at the machines. "Because logic is not enough. Your calculations are correct. We gained nothing materially from saving you. We lost resources, lives, time, and economic stability. But we gained something your mathematics cannot measure." "What?" the Vex asked. "We can look at ourselves in the mirror," Tae-hyun replied. "We can tell our children that when others needed help, we gave it. We can sleep at night knowing we did the right thing. That is worth more than any calculation can show." The Vex processed this for a long moment. Then, for the first time in their collective history, they expressed something beyond pure logic. "We feel regret. We feel shame. We feel gratitude. These emotions are inefficient, but they are real." "Welcome to being alive," Tae-hyun said gently. In the medical wings, Choi Min-ji worked with trauma counselors from a dozen species, trying to develop protocols for helping refugees process their grief. The Ilnar had proven invaluable in this work, their natural empathy helping bridge cultural gaps. A young Cathari female, barely into adolescence, sat across from Min-ji during a counseling session. "My mother stayed behind," the girl said, her voice empty. "She said someone had to maintain order at the evacuation center. A human stayed with her. They died together." "Jung Hai-won," Min-ji said softly. "We know. Your mother was very brave." "The human did not have to stay," the girl continued. "She could have taken the last ship. Why did she stay with my mother?" Min-ji chose her words carefully. "Because your mother should not have died alone. Because Haewon believed that even in death, people deserve dignity and companionship. It is a very human thing to choose to suffer with others rather than let them suffer alone." The girl was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "What kind of species does this?" "A species that values connection over safety," Min-ji answered. "A species that believes we are responsible for each other, even across species lines, especially across species lines." As weeks passed, something unexpected began to happen in the refugee camps. Human and alien children started playing together. Young beings who had lost everything found comfort in each other. Language barriers meant nothing to children who just wanted friends. The adults noticed. Parents watched their children laughing with human kids, sharing toys, learning each other's games. The Ilnar observed it with their characteristic wisdom. "The young do not carry our prejudices," the Ilnar ambassador told Jiwoo during a coordination meeting. "They see friends, not aliens. Perhaps that is what will save us all in the end." A proposal came from the Ilnar that shocked the Galactic Council. They suggested creating a multi-species coalition dedicated to studying and preventing cosmic threats using human archaeological astronomy methods combined with the computational power of the Vex and the engineering excellence of the Cathari. 7 species immediately agreed to join. The Cathari, humbled by catastrophe, were among the first to sign the treaty. The Vex Collective devoted significant resources to the project. The coalition would be called the Sentinel Network. It would watch the stars for dangers using humanity's unique approach to seeing threats in ancient patterns. It would protect worlds not yet born from disasters not yet imagined. But more than that, it represented something unprecedented in galactic history. Species working together not through conquest or trade agreements, but through shared trauma and mutual protection. The Ember Wave had destroyed worlds, but it had created something new from the ashes. Takarn found Jiwoo one last time before the memorial service for the lost worlds. "We have a saying now," he told her. "The humans gave us one warning, then they gave us everything. It will be taught to all Cathari children from this day forward." Jiwoo nodded, too tired for words. "There will be a monument," Takarn continued, "for Zhong Haiwan and all the humans who died saving us. It will say, they gave us one warning, then they gave us everything." "They would have liked that," Jiwoo said quietly. And for the first time since the crisis began, she allowed herself to cry. 15 years had passed since the Ember Wave, and the galaxy barely resembled what it had been before. Park Ji-woo stood at the observation deck of the new Sentinel station, her hair now completely white, her face lined with age. Below her, the massive orbital platform hummed with activity as thousands of beings from a dozen species worked together on the galaxy's early warning system. Lee Seo-yeon joined her at the window. She was middle-aged now, with silver starting to show in her dark hair. "It's almost time for the launch ceremony," she said. Ji-woo nodded. Today they would activate the completed Sentinel network, a web of sensors and monitoring stations that stretched across 3 sectors of space. It would watch for cosmic threats using human archaeological methods combined with Vex computational processing and Cathari engineering excellence. Never again would civilizations be caught unprepared by natural disasters from space. The system would see them coming decades, even centuries in advance. "Hard to believe it's been 15 years, Jiwoo said quietly. "Hard to believe what we built from catastrophe," Seo-yeon replied, gesturing at the station below them where humans, Cathari, Vex units, Ilnar, and others worked side by side. The refugee camps had become permanent settlements, and then cities, and then something entirely new. What began as temporary shelters had evolved into integrated communities where multiple species lived together as neighbors. On New Haven, the largest of the integrated worlds, human and Cathari children attended the same schools. Vex units taught mathematics alongside human professors. Ilnar artists collaborated with beings from 6 different species to create works that transcended cultural boundaries. Kim Tae-hyun, now director of the Interspecies Technology Institute, gave tours to visiting students. His latest project was terraforming 7 new worlds for the displaced species. But many aliens had chosen to stay in the integrated cities rather than rebuild separate civilizations. "Why start over in isolation?" one Cathari parent told a reporter, "when our children are already building something better here." The Cathari had changed the most dramatically. Their entire civilization had undergone a cultural revolution in the 15 years since the Ember Wave. The concept of honor had been redefined. Takarn, now a cultural ambassador, explained it to groups of young Cathari who had been children during the evacuation. "Our old honor was about dying well," he told them. "Our new honor is about living well, about protecting others, about strength in service rather than domination." The new Cathari warrior code included a human proverb prominently displayed in every training center. "Courage is not the absence of fear, but action despite it, for the sake of others." They called it strategic compassion, the idea that protecting the vulnerable and helping those in need was not weakness, but the highest form of strength. Young Cathari warriors now trained not just in combat, but in disaster relief, engineering, medical aid, and diplomacy. The Vex Collective had evolved too. They had integrated emotional processing into their decision-making algorithms, not replacing logic, but supplementing it. They discovered that human, illogical choices often produced outcomes superior to pure calculation. A Vex representative explained it during a university lecture. We used to believe efficiency was the highest goal, but humans showed us that some inefficient actions, like self-sacrifice for strangers, create effects that ripple forward in ways no algorithm can predict. The resources humanity spent saving us have returned value 1,000 times over through cooperation, shared technology, and mutual protection. The calculation was not wrong on principle. We were simply measuring the wrong variables. The Ilnar had become the diplomatic heart of the new multi-species civilization. Their natural empathy and wisdom made them ideal mediators between species learning to coexist. They took no credit for this role, insisting they were simply doing what came naturally. Choi Min-ji, now retired from active diplomatic service, taught xenopsychology at the University of New Haven. Her students were a mix of species, all eager to understand each other better. The old galaxy was built on conquest, she told her class. Species competed for resources, fought for territory, dominated others to survive. But the Ember Wave taught us something crucial. The universe itself is dangerous enough. We don't need to be dangerous to each other. A young human student raised her hand. Professor Minji, some historians say we should not have saved the species that resisted, that we should have let natural selection take its course. What do you think? Minji smiled sadly. Natural selection favors survival, yes. But humans added something to evolution that nature never had. We chose to help those who could not help themselves. We chose compassion over competition. And look what it created. She gestured out the window at the bustling multi-species campus. This is not natural selection. This is conscious selection. We chose the kind of galaxy we wanted to live in, and we built it through sacrifice. The launch ceremony brought together leaders from all the surviving species. The platform was crowded with dignitaries, but the crowd also included ordinary citizens, veterans of the evacuation, and survivors who wanted to witness this moment. Jiwoo took the podium, her voice still strong despite her age. 15 years ago, we warned you of danger. Many did not listen. But humanity chose to save you anyway. Not because you deserved it, but because we believed everyone deserves a chance to survive. She paused, looking across the assembled beings. 127,000 humans died in that evacuation. Today we honor them by ensuring no species will ever face such a catastrophe unprepared again. The Sentinel Network is their legacy. Takarn stepped forward, carrying a memorial plaque. It listed every human who died during the evacuation, starting with Shin Da-un and ending with Jung Hai-won. The plaque would be installed at the heart of the Sentinel station. We Cathari have a new tradition, Takarn announced. Every child learns these names. Every warrior speaks them before battle. These humans gave us one warning, then they gave us everything. We will never forget. The activation ceremony was simple. Jiwoo, Seo Yan, and representatives from each species placed their hands on the activation panel together. The Sentinel Network came online, its sensors reaching across vast distances, watching for dangers yet unknown. Later, in a quieter moment, Jiwoo visited the education wing where Kim Tae-hyun was teaching a mixed-species engineering class. She watched from the doorway as he explained stellar mechanics to students who would have been enemies 2 decades ago. A young Cathari student raised a question. Professor Kim, why did humans help us when we were shooting at your ships? My parent says it makes no sense. Tae-hyun smiled. It was a question he had answered 1,000 times, and he never tired of it. because we looked at the stars and saw not territory to conquer, but neighbors who needed help. Your leaders made bad choices, yes, but you, and millions like you, were just children. You did nothing wrong except being born at the wrong time. He paused, making sure every student was listening. And if we had to burn for you to survive, we chose to make your worlds ignite with hope instead of fire. That is what it means to be human. We carry each other through the darkness, even when the ones we carry do not know they need carrying. The students, human and alien alike, sat in thoughtful silence. That evening, Ji-woo stood again at the observation window, watching ships come and go from the station. Seo-yeon found her there. "You should rest," the younger woman said. "You've done enough." "Have I?" Ji-woo asked. "We saved 9 billion lives, but 6 billion died." "Was it enough?" "You saved everyone you could," Seo-yeon replied firmly. "You gave them a chance when no one else would. That has to be enough." Ji-woo looked out at the stars, at the ships carrying beings from a dozen species, all working together now, all protected by systems humans had helped build. "The Ember Wave took our resources, our economy, our people," she said quietly. "But look what grew from those ashes. A galaxy that protects instead of conquers. Species that cooperate instead of compete. Children of different worlds growing up as friends instead of enemies." She smiled, tired but content. Maybe that human tendency toward irrational compassion was not so irrational after all. Maybe we were just thinking on a longer timeline than everyone else. Behind them, the memorial wall glowed softly. Names of the fallen reflecting starlight: Shin Da-yoon, Yoon Jae-sung, Jung Hae-won, 127,000 humans who burned so others could live. Their sacrifice had ignited something far more powerful than atmospheric fires. They had ignited hope, cooperation, and a new vision of what galactic civilization could become. The Ember Wave had tried to destroy 12 worlds. Instead, it had forged one galaxy united in purpose, protection, and the simple human belief that everyone deserves saving, even those who do not yet know they need it. That was humanity's true gift to the stars. Not technology or weapons or conquest, but the stubborn, illogical, beautiful insistence that we are responsible for each other, and the galaxy would never be the same.